6 a.m. Coffee with Shanda, and I am here every Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, and welcome to today's show. So if you don't want to be inspired or you're very committed to your limiting thoughts, then today would not be the day to watch because I am on fire. Okay, so if you have been watching the Olympics, I don't know if you have or you haven't. I've been streaming on Netflix and watching like clips of the Olympics, and last night I found myself sitting on the couch and then pacing around the house because of just self-assessing my life and my attitude and even my mission and heart core and how I show up. And I'm assessing it because I'm listening to these Olympic athletes and I'm hearing them say things like what they sacrificed to get to where they want. And even just saying that word, I know that there's people cringing right now because they're like, I don't want to sacrifice. And I just want to say that we don't do ourselves any favors by having goals without having like Olympic dreams, right? Like there's a difference between having a goal and an Olympic dream, right? An Olympic dream means you're so driven towards something that is so important for you. You want to see how far you can take it. And I think that many of us have experienced some levels of this. But it's like this ultimate purpose of like seeing if you can actually reach a vision of being like the best skier in the world or the most influential speaker in the world or, solve poverty or healthcare. And I have these conversations with people, I would say actually in the last 6 months, I've probably had this conversation with about 5 people, not about the Olympics, but about like, what is that big moment for you in your life that you're creating? Like what's the thing that is going to blow your mind? And please don't say family because that's super important, but it's not either or. I see so many people hide behind their family. And you know what you're doing? You're just creating another generation of people who don't feel inspired or compelled or on purpose to just shoot for the moon, right? Like, our kids have got to battle. Our kids have got to battle our limitations and go past them. And I think every parent wants their children to go past their own limitations and create something even more magical for themselves in their life. But yet often we're suppressing them with our own ways of being, right? Like, do you not think that your limiting beliefs actually go on them? Absolutely they do. They're gonna work it out in a training room somewhere in their life or they're gonna stay in a limitation somewhere and not get past it, or maybe they are gonna get past it because one of the common denominators with very successful people is the humble beginnings. Not all. You do have Paris Hilton and people like that were born into it. But, when you've got people like Oprah and, there's just a slew of people that came from humble beginnings and created what they created based on solving the problems. So rewind. So I'm watching the Olympics and I'm hearing things like, they had all these clips of the athletes and the athletes were saying things like, they were like, oh yeah, like when we're training, there's a puke button. Like puke button next to the skating rink or the the tobogganing, whatever it is that they do. There was this common thread that they all push themselves to a level that is far beyond what the body wants to go. That is far beyond, like the common thing was, my mind says go faster, my mind says is hooked into the vision, but my body has this limitation to stop. And that they push through these moments. Now, I'm very well aware how aggressive this sounds when I'm saying it. I'm very well aware of this, right? Like, so when I'm saying it, I would be lying to you if I didn't want that level of drive. And I believe that level of drive, that so on purpose for that thing that you really want to create in the world, that thing that you really want to be your legacy. And by the way, these people still have great families. It's not like they're not like connected, right? But they're up to a big game and there's always sacrifices in every big game. But I guess the question I proposed and I've been proposing to myself is, what's better? Like living under your potential or going after an Olympic dream? And I don't know if it's better or worse, but I could say more compelling would be the Olympic dream, which means that every day, imagine if you flew out of bed every day and you knew exactly what you wanted to do. You were so fired up to do it. And no matter how you felt, how badly you want to hit the snooze button, you don't, because you're on a mission. You're on a mission. I mean, you can't pretend to me that you watch Coffee with Shanda and you're not a driven person. You are. I mean, there's people who have no drive and they're great. They're awesome. They have no drive and they serve their purpose on the planet, whatever that is. And then there's people who solve healthcare issues, who realize that microbiome in your stomach has to be addressed if you want to get rid of addictions. That fertility and your eggs for having a baby could be regenerated so that you can have babies at an older age. Like there's people who actually go out there with these Olympic huge ass dreams and they figure it out and they spend countless hours figuring it out. The lights that are on in our house come from someone who had an Olympic dream, right? Like the airplanes come from people who had Olympic dreams, right? They're not people who just said, hit the snooze button, I failed, so I suck. And so here's what I want to just take this idea, because I mean, I couldn't contain myself last night. Like I was just like, oh my God, there's another cut, there's another cut, there's another cut. Let me be really clear. For all of you guys who want to say, Shanda, calm down, slow down, make the drive bad, please save your breath. Because I'm not interested in being enrolled in playing a smaller game. I'm interested in enrolling you and enrolling anybody that has a big Olympic dream to play bigger in your marriages, to play bigger with your children, to play bigger instead of, I can't have that because, right? I'm not interested in being enrolled. And if you're with somebody who enrolls you on not being generous or not giving referrals or not playing bigger when you really want something badly and they tell you to slow down, kindly ask them to remove themselves until they can come back and be empowering as a cheerleader for you. Because the truth is we don't need anybody to talk us out of our drive. If anything, we need more people to talk us into our drive is good, and it's going to make a big difference on this planet. And who knows if you're the person who coaches someone like Richard Branson, who goes off and creates what he's created in this world, or you're the person who coaches or is the teacher for someone like Oprah and believes in them, and she brings positive news to the planet, right? You don't know if, how funny is this? I mean, maybe you can experience this, but have you ever realized that the thing that you don't like or don't want is the thing that you need to move towards? Right? Like, I know this as a business coach. I'll tell people that's the thing you should do. And they're like, I'm not passionate about that. I've been running away from that for a while. I'm over that. I'm trying to create something totally new. And I'm like, great, create something totally new, but bring that piece with you. Right? And so I hear it all the time. And then when they finally accept all parts of them, they explode. Right? And then until they hit their next wall, and they hit their next wall, and then they've got to find out what's that next thing that compels me forward. Right? And so my point in sharing that with you is I never wanted to do video in my life. And now a huge part of my life, speaking, I never wanted to speak. I mean, pay attention to all the things that you suppress inside you because you're making it okay to play a smaller game. And I just want to ask you to unleash these drives. Unleash them, right? Unleash them, because if we don't unleash them, first of all, you're not living, you're not giving. I'm a huge believer in God, and God is our Father. And if you are a parent, you already know this. The last thing you want your children to do is hold back. But yet we make up these reasons why we hold back. For our husbands, our wives, our children, we're too old, we're too sick, and whatever it is, and we don't take advantage of every breath we have. So I want to read something to you. This is out of a book called Called to Create. And after the night of the Olympics, I go to bed, and I love to transition my evening with a nighttime read. And I picked this up and I was reading, in 1873, the man and his wife decided to take their 4 daughters on an extended vacation to England, where their friend D.L. Moody was expected to be preaching in the fall. As the family was set to head to New York to board the ship to Europe, the man, which is the husband, was forced to stay behind in Chicago to attend a business matter. He encouraged his wife and his daughters to go without him, promising he would meet them in Europe as soon as possible. The 5 women made it safely to New York and boarded the Ville du Hove. I can't pronounce this, Hove. As the ship went across the Atlantic, the women felt a sudden jolt. The Ville du Hove had been struck by an iron sailing vessel. 12 minutes later, the ship sank to the bottom of the ocean, split in 2. All 4 daughters died. Their mother was the only passenger to survive. Upon arriving to England, she telegraphed her husband in Chicago. Saved alone, she said. The husband left to Chicago right away, sailing to England to meet his grieving wife. We don't know much about his journey across the Atlantic, but I have to imagine that this man spent his days alone, grieving the loss and questioning his God. I can see him sitting and staring out the window. I can't even imagine this. At the infinite sea, reading the biblical account of the job. A man like him, who's been blessed with so much, wealth, success, family, only to see it all be taken away from him in the blink of an eye. We don't know much. That part doesn't. I'm going to skip to the forward. Basically, it's a message that says that, by the way, it's not about choosing family over business. This book is actually about God is the number one entrepreneur, and God created the earth, created the plants, the ocean, everything. All of our ideas come from God. It's like he's the ultimate entrepreneur. An ultimate entrepreneur always figures out a way of living and breathing a big game. But it's like every time you think about your failure, and that's what this chapter goes on to talk about, every time you go and you think about the failures or the things that you're dealing with in your business, you need to stop and think about that man who lost his 4 daughters when the ship crossing the Atlantic got hit and sank, right? You got to think about, I'm right now doing a lot of asset protection and trusts and things like that to protect my family and my son. And if you're a parent and you don't have a will that's actually in a trust, you're doing yourself a great disservice. But I'm going through all of this stuff right now, and my advisors are telling me these crazy stories of how when you pass away, if your will isn't in a trust and things aren't set up in these certain ways, that, uncles and aunts and cousins that live in different countries that you don't even know your estate can be split up. Like there's one of my advisors has a case in Las Vegas who it's only $6,000, but the $6,000 has been in probate for 2 years, and the child doesn't have that money, right? And so my point is, like, we don't ever expect these moments to happen, right? I think we underestimate and take for granted the breath we have today. And where I tie this all up together in Coffee with Shanda is, did you start your day with an intention? Craig Ballantyne is a friend of mine. He wrote the book, A Perfect Day Formula. And, I would say one of the best things I've learned from Craig is, 2. One of them is live my life today the way I believe my life will be in the next 5 years or 6 or 10 years inside my business and inside my life, right? So, like, for instance, if you want to grow, let's say, like right now I'm wanting to double our company. And so we have a lofty goal right now. And so you project yourself at the end of the year with the doubled company, and what would I be doing as tasks inside my life, right? Like, what would I be doing today if I already had a company that size, right? Well, I'll tell you, I would still be a very committed, connected mother. I would still pick my son up every day from school. I would still do that. That wouldn't be either or. But, you know, I probably would not have an email. I probably would not attend company meetings. I probably would, and by the way, these are all things that are happening inside my company right now. But that's because of that foreshooting myself in the future and living today as if I already have that, which means that you have to problem solve and let go of all your limiting beliefs right now of what you can or can't do, and just have faith and step into this. This is why I believe running a company without being connected to God is really a hard game, right? Because you're doing it alone at that point. Faith is such a big piece of it. But so that's one aspect. So I ask you, where is your business in your life going to be in the next 5 years from now? Or what is the goal, right? So I actually want to grow Hardcore to $1 billion company. And I have my reasons for that. And I have no issues around money, but it's not for money. It's actually not for money for me at all. It's actually a completely different game. And I'm not going to get into that because I think that it's distracting right now. But like, what would be your moonshot, right? Like, what a moonshot is, like your big thing that, you know, solving poverty, you know, having no more homeless in your city, you know, curing diabetes. I mean, what is your moonshot? And could you just get out of the way and think, what if you were someone who helped solve that? What if you were good enough to be in the rooms with those people who are solving that? I will tell you, one of the most amazing things about a mastermind I belong to, which is Genius Network, is that you have some of the most smartest people in the room. And people come and go of that mastermind all the time because they're like, I don't know if I'm like getting enough or whatever, that whole crazy conversation people have. And it's like, when are you going to stop operating the world about getting? And why don't you start showing up to a mastermind with, what are you giving? Right? What are you giving? What are you giving? And trust me, if you give in your mastermind, you will get more out of your mastermind than anything you could ever imagine. But people don't do that. They're waiting for people to because they're entitled to give to them because they're paying money. Go in and spend your life giving. Spend your life standing for people. Spend your life sending referrals to people. Like, spend your life operating from that standpoint. And I am telling you, your leadership not only will go through the roof, but you will never, ever want for anything again. The second thing that Craig Valentine taught me was, when I wake up in the morning, what is my number one priority? And you know what? If you don't have the first one set up that we just talked about, like, what are you up to on the planet? Like, could you get out from beside yourself? I will tell you, if you don't know what that is, just start dedicating your life to being a giver, and your thing will open up. Because sometimes we are so playing a small game in our life, or playing in a small world in our minds, that we don't even have access to that big moonshot vision because we're still trying to get. Right? So practice giving give people referrals. You know, I mean, on a daily basis, and my husband will tell you this, on a daily basis, I'm trying to find ways to give to people. I mean, I went and gave my Bible to someone yesterday. I stopped on the side of the street and give like every ounce of money. And I gave, I don't know, a couple $100. I think it was a couple $100 out of my purse because I withdrew it out of the bank. I put it in my purse, and I was leading my own mastermind. And I just felt like God told me to give this money to this woman who had a baby to like help pay for her hotel room, right? Like, no like charity, no anything, but just compelled to give, right? Like, this isn't about me. It's about me trying to model what broke me free and created this freedom, not only monetarily, but also a guilt-free mommyhood, right? A guilt-free wifehood, right? So the second thing is what is your priority today? And that means that the first thing that you get to really do this morning is clear your plate and work on your priority. And please, like, okay, if your marriage is falling apart, that's probably going to be a priority, right? or maybe it should be if it's falling apart. But please don't be in a marriage and I don't mean separate from a marriage, okay? So that's not where I'm going. Please don't show up in a marriage in a place that you are suppressing yourself to make your husband happy. It's about a team player, right? It's about, like, again, if you're suppressing and you're not finding agreements that work for both of you to skyrocket, and you're suppressing your drive or for your wife, right? Then you're not aiding to the element of freedom on this planet. You're not expanding into a moonshot. You're living within a box, right? Like, you're living within a box. I don't believe that people, like, you shouldn't be living in a place in the world that you don't want to live in. You know, what if your moment of life insurance is about to kick up in a week and you're not going to be here in a week? Like, really? Like, so make agreements with the people in your life to live a life that works for everyone. And ask yourself, what is your moonshot? And if you don't know, start getting hyper focused on giving. And as you do that, and I don't mean just giving to your clients, because you get from that. That's a great place to give, but I'm saying giving to everyone you can. Give to your competitors that scare the shit out of you to give to. Give everywhere you can. I mean, I have my competition friends, meaning that people who teach business and things like that, on Coffee with Shanda. I give them an opportunity to host Coffee with Shanda, you know, and I see the posts of my clients saying, oh my God, I'm going to go follow that person. They're smart. They're amazing. And then I see some of them move. And then I see some of my competitors' people move. My point in saying that is live a game of freedom. Live a game of freedom, because nothing is limited and you don't know how long you have on this solid earth. So with that being said, I'm going to end on that. The book that I'm reading, if people always ask me that, or I'm just finishing, is called to Create. I've shared it before. You know, if you didn't watch Coffee with Shanda yesterday, I actually recommend you watch it, because it was probably one of the most important Coffees with Shanda that I've ever done. So go find on my page yesterday's Coffee with Shanda. And other than that, tomorrow I'm actually going to have a great friend of mine on Coffee with Shanda with me, Bedros Kuluni. He owns a company called Fit Body Boot Camp. He also teaches entrepreneurial leadership. He's amazing. And we're actually going to talk about how he was able to turn Instagram into, really monetize it into what he calls a cash machine. And what's amazing about this story of leadership is he's not technical. He's not a technical person. And it was just a handful of months ago that he had nobody following him on Instagram, and he had no idea what he was doing on Instagram. And he tried to hire people to help him with Instagram. And then he got in there and he really worked out his expansion and his authenticity on Instagram, and it exploded. So he's going to talk about that tomorrow morning on Valentine's Day. So, all right, you guys. So here's to an extraordinary day. Please set your priority today and set it to an intention that really moves you towards a moonshot in your life. Talk to you soon. Bye.